Are at stage 12, paragraph page 1132. Okay, 1132. Okay, and our last head word was hopeless, newer type of
Hopeless.
lesson. Okay,
Yeah, okay.
so let's start with revision. Let me just scroll down.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. First question.
Yeah.
What proportion of people do you think would be willing to commit financial fraud if they knew they were guaranteed to get away with it? What proportion of people do you think would be willing to commit financial fraud if they knew they were guaranteed to get away with it? I think
I think 5%
of
of
people would be
people
willing to
would
commit
be willing to commit
financial fraud
financial
if they
fraud
knew they were
if they knew they
guaranteed
were
to get
guaranteed
away with it.
to get away with it.
Where this class always assemble in the same room. Does this class always assemble in the same room? Yes or no?
Yes,
This class
this
always
class
assembles
always
in the
assemble
same
in the
room.
same room.
Very good. What are the advantages of buying furniture that you assemble at home as opposed to ready-made furnitures? What are the advantages of buying furniture that you assemble at home as opposed to ready-made furniture? The advantages
The
of
advantages
buying
of
furniture
buying
that you
furniture
assemble at
that you
home
assemble at
as
home
opposed to
as opposed
ready-made
to
furniture
ready-made
are
furniture,
that the furnitures
that the furnitures
usually cheaper
usually
and
cheaper
easier to
and
transport.
easier to transport.
Very good. Okay, does a person with poor dress sense tend to choose clothes that don't go with one another? Does a person with poor dress sense tend to choose clothes that don't go with one another? Yes, a person
Yes,
with
a
poor
person
dress
with
sense
poor dress sense
tend to choose
tend
clothes
to choose
that
clothes
don't go with
that
one
don't go
another.
with one another.
Very good. What do we mean by a recording studio and a TV studio? What do we mean by a recording studio or a TV studio? By a recording
By a
studio
recording
and a
studio
TV
and a
studio,
TV
we
studio,
mean the
we
places
mean the
where
places
music and
where
TV
music and
programs
TV
are
programs
recorded.
are recorded.
Very good. What's the principal difference between a bed sit and a studio flat? What's the principal difference between a bed sit and a studio flat? The principal
The
difference
principal difference
between a bed sit
between a bed
and a
sheet
studio flat
and a studio
is
flat
that the tenant
that
in
the
a bed
tenant
sit
in a bed
shares
sheet
a bathroom
shares a
with
bathroom
other people
with
in the
other
building,
people in the building,
whereas the tenant in
whereas
a
the
studio
tenant
flat
in a studio
has
flat
their own bathroom.
has their own
Bathroom.
bathroom. Okay.
Very good. Why should people with hectic working lives make sure they don't skip breakfast? Why should people with hectic working lives make sure they don't skip breakfast? People with hectic
People
working
with
lives
hectic working
should make
lives
sure
should
they
make
don't skip
sure they
breakfast
don't eat
because
breakfast
they might not
because
find the time they might not find
they might not find
to the time to eat
the time to
a
eat
decent lunch later on.
a decent lunch later on.
Very good. One more. People with hectic
People
working
with
lives
hectic working
should
lives
make sure
should
they
make
don't skip
sure they
breakfast
don't skip
because
breakfast
they might not
because they
find
might not
the
find
time to eat
the time
a
to
decent
eat
lunch later on.
decent lunch later on.
Very good. Give me an example of the word costly. Give me an example of the word costly, please. After making
After
several costly
making
mistakes,
several costly
the
mistakes,
CEO
the
took the
CEO
decision to
took the
resign.
decision to resign.
Very good. Okay. Do you think today's society means young people tend to be more sophisticated than in the past? Do you think today's society means young people tend to be more sophisticated than in the past? Yes or no?
Yes,
I think
I
today's
think
society
today's
means
society
young
means
people
young
tend to be
people
more
tend to be
sophisticated
more sophisticated
than in the past.
than in the past.
Why? Why do you think so? Because
Because recently young people can get useful information from the internet.
that's correct. Every information so much. Okay, next. Do some big companies use sophisticated methods to reduce their tax burden? Do some big companies use sophisticated methods to reduce their tax burden? Yes, some
Yes,
big companies
some big
use
companies
sophisticated
use the
methods
sophisticated
to
method
reduce their
to
tax
reduce
burden.
their tax burden.
Very good. What's the maximum number of people you could put up overnight in the place where you live?
In the place where you
What's the
live,
maximum number of people you could put up overnight in the
put up
place where you
overnight
live?
in the place.
the maximum number
The
of
maximum
people
number of
I
people
could put up
I could
overnight
put up
in the
overnight
place where I
in the
live
place where I
is
live
about.
is about 10 people.
Very good. Are negotiations between two nations usually more fruitful when
Usually
both
more
sides are
fruitful.
prepared to
Both sides are
compromise?
prepared to
Are
compromise.
negotiations between two nations usually
Two
more
nations
fruitful when
usually
both
more
sides are
fruitful.
prepared to
Both
compromise? Yes,
Yes,
negotiations between
negotiations
two nations
between two
are
nations
usually more
are
fruitful
usually more fruitful
when both sides
when both
are
sides
prepared to
are
compromise.
prepared to compromise.
Very good. Why do some jewelry stores have special security systems to let customers in and
Let the
out?
customer
Why do some jewelry stores have special security systems to let customers in and out? Some jewelry
Some
stores
jewelry
have
stores
special
have
security
special
systems
security
to
systems
let
to
customers
let the
in and
customers
out
in and out
because jewelry
because the
stores
jewelry
are
stores
often targeted
are
by
often
robbers.
targeted by robbers.
Where do airport security officers demand to see a valid boarding pass before they let a passenger
Before they let the
through to
passenger
catch
through
their flight?
to catch the
Do
flight.
airport security officers demand to see a valid boarding pass before they let a passenger through to catch their flight? Yes.
Yes,
Airport security
airport
officers
security officers
demand to see a
demand to
valid
see
boarding pass. A valid
uh,
boarding pass
a valid boarding pass
before they let a
before they
passenger
let the passenger
through to catch their flight.
through to catch their flight.
Very good. One more. Yes.
Okay.
Airport
Yes,
security
airport
officers
security
demand
officers
to see a
demand
valid
to
boarding
see a
pass
valid boarding pass
before they let a
before they
passenger
let the
through
passenger
to
through
catch their flight.
to catch the flight.
Very good. Which element of their profiles do people change most often on social media
Social
websites?
media
Which
website.
elements of their profiles do people change most often on their social media website? The elements
The
of their
elements
profiles
of their
that people
profiles
change
that the
most
people
often
change most
on social
often
media
on
websites
social media
are their
websites
profile
are their
pictures,
profile pictures,
relationship status,
relationship
etc.
status, etc.
Very good. Why do newspapers like to publish stories about high profile
High
celebrities?
profile
Why do
celebrities.
newspapers like to publish stories about high profile celebrities? Newspapers like to
Newspapers
publish
like to
stories
publish
about
stories
high profile
about
celebrities
profile
because
celebrities
they know
because
more
they know
people will
more
buy their
people will
newspaper.
buy the newspaper.
Very good. In a small shop, where is the till normally situated? In a small shop,
In a
where is
small
the
shop,
till normally
till normally
situated?
situated.
In a small shop,
In a small
the
shop,
till is
the
normally
till is
situated
normally
on the
situated
counter.
on the counter.
Very good. Why might a pupil feel a little anxious if their teacher asks them to stay
Teacher
behind
asks
after
them to stay
class?
behind after
Why
class.
might a pupil feel a little anxious if their teacher asks them to stay behind after class? A pupil
A
might feel
pupil
a little
might
anxious
feel a little
if their
anxious
teacher
if
asks
the
them
teacher asks
to stay
them
behind
to
after
stay
class
behind after
because
class
they might assume
because they might
there was
assume
a problem
there was
or that they were in trouble.
there was
A
a
problem
problem
or that they were in
or that
trouble.
they were in trouble.
Very good. One more. A pupil
Okay?
might
A
feel
pupil
a little
might feel a
anxious
little anxious
if their teacher
if
asks
their
them
teacher
to
asks
stay
them
behind
to
after
stay
class
behind after
because
class
they might
because
assume
they might
there
assume
was a problem
there was a
or that
problem
they were in
or that
trouble.
they were in trouble.
Very good. Okay. Next, does your room overlook the street? Does your room overlook the street? Yes or no?
No,
My room
my
doesn't
room
overlook
doesn't
the
overlook
street.
the street.
We could name a job where overlooking details can lead to costly errors. Name a job where overlooking details can lead to costly errors, please. The name of
The
some
names
jobs
of
where
some jobs
overlooking
where
details
overlooking
can lead
details
to
can
errors
lead to
is that
errors
of an
is that
architect,
of an architect,
engineer, surgeon,
engineer,
etc.
surgeon, etc.
Very good. On which day of the week do you think the police in your country have to deal with the highest
Have to
number of
deal with the
criminal
highest number of
incidents?
criminal
On
incidents.
which day of the week do you think the
On which
police in your country have to deal with the highest
have to
numbers
deal
of
with the
criminal
highest number of
incidents?
criminal incidents.
I think the
I
police
think the
in my
police
country
in my
have to
country
deal
have
with
to
the
deal
highest
with
number
the highest
of
numbers
criminal
of
incidents
criminal
on
incidents
speed.
on Fridays.
Very good. Okay. If you were suddenly forced to live on half the money you live on now, would it
Now,
cause a financial
would they
crisis
cause
for
a
you?
financial crisis for
If
you?
you were suddenly forced to live on
Suddenly
half the
forced
money
to
you
live
live
on
on
half the
now,
money you live on
would it
now.
cause financial crisis
Cause
for you?
financial
Yes or
for you?
no?
Yes.
If I were suddenly
If I
forced
were
to
suddenly
live
forced to
on half the
live
money
on half
I
the
live on
money
now,
I live on
it'd
now,
cost me
it would cause
financial
me a
crisis.
financial crisis.
Where if is a business partnership likely to survive if the partners are constantly critical over
Constantly
one another's
over
ideas?
the idea.
Is a business partnership likely to survive if the partners are constantly critical of one another's ideas? No. A business
No, a
partnership
business
isn't
partnership
likely to
isn't
survive
likely to
if the
survive
partners
if
are
the partners
constantly
are
critical
constantly
of
critical
one another's
of one
ideas.
another's ideas.
Right? What do we mean by a critical decision? What do we mean by a critical decision? By a critical
By a
decision,
critical
we mean
decision,
a very
we mean a
important decision
very important
that will
decision
dictate
that will
how a
dictate
situation
how a
develops.
situation develops
Very good. Okay. Is it possible to travel abroad from your country without going overseas? Is it
overseas.
possible to travel abroad from your country without going overseas? Yes or no?
No,
It isn't
it
possible
isn't
to travel
possible
abroad
to
from
travel
my
abroad
country
from my
without
country
going
without
overseas.
going overseas.
Very good. Are all the pedestrians crossings in your town controlled by traffic lights?
Controlled by
Are
traffic
all the
lights.
pedestrian crossings in your town controlled by traffic lights? Yes or no?
Yes,
All the pedestrian
all the
crossings
pedestrian
in my
crossings
town
in
are
my town
controlled by
are
traffic lights.
controlled by traffic lights.
Reggie, do you think most people look on retirement as a positive or negative change in their lives? Do you think
Lives.
most people look on retirement as a positive or negative change in their lives? I think most
I
people
think most
look on
people
retirement
look on
as
retirement
a
as a positive
change in their lives.
positive change in their lives.
Very good. Okay. Give me an example of the word heavy used with a meaning
Heavy
similar to
is meaning
intense.
similar to
Give me an
intense.
example of the word heavy used with a meaning similar to intense, please. He was breathing
He
heavily
was breathing heavily
because he'd been running.
because he'd been running.
Right? If you went for a walk in heavy rain without an umbrella, would you
Without
get
an umbrella
soaked?
to get
If you
soaked.
went for a walk in heavy rain without an umbrella, would you get soaked? Yes. If
Yes,
I went for a
if
walk
I went
in
for a walk
heavy rain
in heavy
without
rains
an umbrella,
without an
I'd get
umbrella,
soaked.
I get soaked.
Very good. Are you hopeful for the future of the planet? Are you hopeful for the future of the
For the
planet?
future of the
Yes or
planet?
no?
Yes,
I'm hopeful
I'm
for the future
hopeful
of
for
the
the
planet.
future of the planet.
Tell me something that you're hopeless at. Tell me something that you're hopeless at. I'm hopeless at
I'm hopeless I'm hopeless at dancing.
dancing. Very good. Okay, so that's the end of our revision. Let's have new work.
Okay,
Okay, so repeat out of place.
out of place.
Conference.
Conference.
Very good. Okay, listen. Conference is a large formal meeting,
Large formal
often
meeting,
lasting a few days,
often lasting a
where
few
people who
days.
are interested in a
Who are
particular
interested
subject
in a
come
particular
together to
subject.
discuss ideas. For example, people often wear business
People
attires
wear
when they
business
attend a
when they
conference.
attend a conference.
Out of place is an adjective. If someone or something looks out of place,
Looks
it
out of
is in a
place
position where it doesn't belong
where it
or
doesn't
not
belong,
suitable for a
not
particular
suitable for a
situation
particular
or
situation
occasion.
or
For
occasion.
example, you'd look out of place if you
Out
turn
of
up
place
to a
if you
business
turn up to
conference
a
in
business
shorts
conference
and a
in
t-shirt
short in the
because
t-shirts.
everyone else at the
Everyone
conference
else at the
would be wearing
conference
formal
would
work
be wearing
clothes.
formal work clothes.
Very good. Okay, let's practice.
Okay,
Why would you look out of place if you turn up to a business
turn up
conference
to a
in
business
shorts and
conference
a
in
t-shirt?
short
Why
t-shirts.
would you look out of place if you turn up to a business conference in shorts and a t-shirt? I'd look out of place.
I sorry,
Huh?
I
I'd look out of place
I'd look out of
if
place
I turn up
if
to a
I turn
business
up to a
conference
business
in
conference
shorts and a
in
t-shirt
shorts and t-shirts
because everyone else
because
at the
everyone else
conference
at the
would be
conference
wearing
would be
formal
wearing
work clothes.
formal work clothes.
Very good. Next, repeat bureaucracy,
Bureaucracy,
complex,
complex,
giant.
giant,
Very good. Okay, listen. Complex can be an adjective
and
or
be
a
an
noun.
adjective. One,
As an adjective, complex means has many details which
many
make it
details which
complicated to
makes it
understand,
complicated to
hard to
understand.
understand. For example, complex rules in an organization sometimes cause confusion among members. As a noun, complex is a whole building for a particular
whole building
purpose.
for particular
For
purpose.
example, there is a shopping complex near where I
Shopping
live, so it's
complex
a
near
large
where
building
I live with large
for
building.
shopping.
Also,
Bureaucracy is a noun. When there is too much bureaucracy, when
too
we
much
say there is
bureaucracy.
too much
Yes,
bureaucracy in an
bureaucracy
organization,
in an
it
organization.
means the rules and regulation used
It's
in the
more
organization are too
in the
complex
too
and should be
complex.
more straightforward.
It's
So
more
there are a lot of
straightforward. There are
loopholes.
a lot of
Okay, so giant is an adjective. It means extremely large.
extremely large.
For example, I'd be happy if a giant shopping complex was
Shopping
constructed near
complex
my home.
constructed near my home.
Let's practice. What do people mean when they complain that there's too much bureaucracy in an organization? What do people mean when they complain that there's too much bureaucracy in an organization? When people complain
When
that
people
there's too
complain
much
that there's
bureaucracy
too much
in an
bureaucracy in
organization,
an
they
organization,
mean that
they
the
mean
rules and
that the rules
regulations
and regulations
used in an
used in
organization
an
are too
organizations
complex
are too
and should be
complex
more
and should be
straightforward.
more straightforward.
Very good. Okay. Would you be happy if a giant shopping complex was constructed near your home? Would you be happy if a giant shopping complex was constructed near your home? Yes or no?
No,
I wouldn't be happy
I
if
wouldn't
a
be
giant
happy
shopping
if a giant
complex
shopping
was
complex
constructed
was
near my home.
constructed near my home.
Very good. Next repeat. Go off.
Go off.
Yogurt.
Yogurt.
Very good. Okay, listen. Go off or go off is a phrasal
Go
verb.
off. First verb.
If a food or drink goes off, it means
Goes off.
it's no longer
It's
fresh.
no longer
Like it's
fresh.
rotten or spoiled already.
Not
Yogurt is a food that is made when bacteria are added to milk and that is often flavored and chilled.
flavored.
For example, I reckon plain yogurt can safely be
Plain
kept
yogurt
in the
can
fridge
stay
for
in
5 days
the fridge
before
for
it goes
5 days
off.
before it
Let's
goes off.
practice. How long do you reckon plain yogurt can safely be kept in the fridge before it goes off? How long do you
How
reckon plain yogurt can be safely be kept in the fridge before it goes off? I reckon plain
I
yogurt
reckon
can
plain
safely be
yogurt
kept
can
in the fridge
safely be
be
kept
in
in the
the
fridge
fridge for 5 days
for 5 days
before it goes off.
before it goes off.
Well, one more. I reckon
Okay,
plain
I
yogurt
reckon
can
plain
safely be
yogurt
kept
safely
in the
be kept
fridge
in the
for
fridge
5 days
for five
before
days
it goes off.
before it goes off.
Very good. Okay, next repeat. Countless.
Countless.
Very good. Okay, listen. Countless is an adjective. If something is countless, it means that it's too many to be counted.
Too many to be
For
counted.
example, I called the hospital countless times but couldn't get through.
Couldn't get through.
Okay, let's practice. Make a sentence with the word countless. Make a sentence with the word countless, please. I called the hospital
I called the
countless
hospital
times
countless
but
times,
couldn't get through.
but couldn't get through.
Very good. Next, repeat gardening.
Gardening.
Lawn.
Lawn.
Very good. Okay, listen. Gardening is a noun. It is the activity in which a person
Activity
takes
in which a
care of the
person takes
plants in
care
a
of the
garden.
plants in the
For
garden.
example, in my country, people often take up
People
gardening
often
in
take
their
up gardening
retirement
in
as
their
their hobby.
retirement as their hobby.
Lawn is an area of grass kept
Area of
closely cut
grass
and
kept
smooth,
closely
like
cut
a
and smooth.
carpet, and is usually
Carpet
found in a garden or in a park.
in park.
Let's practice. In your country, do people often take up gardening in their retirement? In your country, do people often take up gardening in their retirement? Yes or no?
Yes,
In my country,
in my
people
countries,
often take up
people often
gardening
take up
in their
gardening
retirement.
in their retirement.
Why? Why do you think so? Because?
Because gardening is a very simple hobby.
Mhm.
So people, most of the people who retire can easily have a good time
Ga-
by gardening.
by gardening. That's correct. Especially if they live in the countryside. Okay.
Yeah, they live in the
Very good.
countryside. Yes.
Next, what's a lawn and where do we usually find one? What's a lawn and where do we usually find one? A lawn
A
is an
lawn
area of
is an
grass
area of
kept
grass
closely cut
kept
and
closely cut
smooth like a
and
carpet
smooth like a
and is
carpet,
usually found
and is
in a
usually
garden.
found in a garden.
Very good. Next, repeat slice.
Slice.
Very good. Okay, listen. Slice is a noun. It is a thin piece of food that is cut from a larger
Cut
piece.
from a
For
larger
example,
piece.
some types of food that are often served in slices are bread,
In
cake, and
slices of bread,
pizza.
pizza.
Okay, let's practice. Name some types of food that are often served in slices. Name some types of food that are often served in slices, please. Some types of food
Some types of
that
food
are often
that
served
are
in
often
slices
served in
are bread,
slices are
cake,
bread,
pizza,
cake,
etc.
pizza, etc.
Very good. Okay, next repeat. Dedicate.
Dedicate,
Out of work.
out of work.
Very good. Okay, listen. Out of work is an adjective, which means unemployed, out of work, no work,
Unemployed, out of
unemployed.
work, no work.
For example, he
Unemployed.
immediately took the job offered to
The
him
job
because
offered to
he's
him
been out of
because
work
he's
for
been
quite
out
a
of work
time now.
for quite a time now.
Dedicate is a verb. It means to
Now,
be decide or to
to
decide
be
that something will be
decided
used for a special
to be used
purpose,
for a
such
special
as
purpose.
time, money, energy, attention, or something. For example,
Okay.
I think government should dedicate more resources to helping
More
those who
resources
are
to help
out of
them
work.
who are out of work.
Let's practice. Do you think your government should dedicate more resources to helping those who are out of
Help
work?
people who are
Do you
out of
think your
work.
government should dedicate more resources to helping those who are out of work? Yes or no?
Yes,
I think our
I
government
think our
should
government
dedicate more
should dedicate
resources
more
to
resources
helping those
to helping
who are out of helping
to
those
to helping those
who are
who
out
are
of work.
out of work.
Very good. One more. Yes,
Okay.
I think
Yes,
our government
I think our
should
government
dedicate more
should dedicate
resources
more
to
resources
helping those
to
who are
helping
out
those
of work.
who are out of work.
Very good. Next, repeat crawl.
Crawl,
Very good. Okay, listen. Crawl is a verb. It means to move along on your
move
hands
along
and
on your
knees
hands
with
and
your body
knees
close to the
with your
ground.
body closer to
For
the ground.
example, a baby moves about
Baby
by
moves
crawling on his
about
hand
by
and knees
crawling on
before it
hand
learns to walk.
before it lands to you.
Let's practice. How does a baby move around before it learns to walk? How does a baby move around before it learns to walk? A baby moves
A
about
baby moves
by
about
crawling on
by
its
crawling
hands
on his hand
and knees before
and
it
knees
learns to walk.
before it learns to walk.
Very good. Next, repeat out of practice.
Out of practice.
Very good. Okay, listen. Out of practice means to be bad at doing something
Be bad
because
at
you
doing
have not
something
been
because
doing it regularly.
you
For example, I'd have to go about a year without speaking English before I began to feel
before
out
I
of
began to
practice.
feel out of practice.
Let's practice. About how long would you have to
How
go
would you
without
have
speaking
to go
English before you
without
began to
before
feel
you
out of
began to
practice?
feel out of
About
practice?
how long would you have to go without speaking English before you began to feel out of practice? I'd have to go about
I have to go about 3 months
without speaking English
without speaking
before
English
I began
before
to
I
feel out
began
of
to
practice.
feel out of practice.
Very good. Next repeat stare.
Stare,
Very good. Okay, listen. Stare is to look at someone or
to look at
something
someone or
very
something
directly for a
very
long time.
directly for a long
For
time.
example, young children often stare
Young
at
children often
strangers
stare at
without
strangers
realizing
without
how
realizing
uncomfortable it
how
can make them
uncomfortable
feel.
it can make them feel.
Let's practice. Do young children often stare at strangers without realizing how uncomfortable it
How
can make them
uncomfortable
feel?
it can make them
Do
feel.
young children often stare at strangers without realizing how uncomfortable it can make them feel? Yes, young
Yes,
children often
young
stare
children
at
often
strangers
stare at
without
strangers
realizing how uncomfortable
without realizing
how uncomfortable
how
it
uncomfortable
can make them feel.
it can make them feel.
Very good. One more. Yes,
Okay?
young
Yes,
children
young
often
children
stare at
often
strangers
stare at
without
strangers
realizing
without
how
realizing
uncomfortable
how
it
uncomfortable
can make them
it
feel.
can make them feel.
Very good. Next repeat left-handed,
Left-handed,
right-handed.
right-handed.
Very good. Okay, listen. Left-handed is an adjective. It means someone who is born with a
Someone who is
natural
born with a
tendency
natural
to use their left
tendency
hand
to
to do
use their
things,
left hand to do
especially
things,
things such as writing.
especially things that just writing.
Right-handed is also an adjective. It means someone who is born with the natural
Who is born
tendency
with
to
a
use the
natural
right
tendency
hand to
to
do
use the right
things,
hand to do
especially
things,
things such as writing.
especially things such as
For
writing.
example, my mom's left-handed whilst my dad's right-handed.
Right-handed.
Okay, let's practice. Do you know anyone who's left-handed for certain? Oh, but we can't finish that anymore for today.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Okay.
See you again.
Thank you.